it's going to take the market a while to adjust to what's happening. This is going to be a moving target. You can't make clear rules right now, obviously.
This is Byron Lazine and Nicole White, and you're tuned into episode 328 of The Real Word. And today, for at least a little bit, we've got Ricky Carruth joining Real Word. Rarely do we have a guest, but rarely do we have an occasion like this where Ricky needs a platform to respond to last week's Real Word, as well as the live that ensued the following day with Leo Pareja, the CEO of eXp Realty. And Ricky, you're still with eXp. I was not wrong on that part, right?
Yeah,
You're still with.
am.
So for those that
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it.
It's not in the. I don't think it's in the bio, and you don't, Ricky. To your credit, with the amount of following that you have and influence in the industry, you don't promote the downline like maybe some other people do. So to your point, you don't know it, and it's not the reason that you're putting out so much content in the industry. So if you missed last week's pod, you probably want to go back and listen to that one. I know thousands of you did, and thousands were on the live stream, obviously, with Leo. I screenshotted Ricky's post from Instagram that Leo asked him to delete. That post we can share, on the screen, Haley, for people that don't want to go backwards. Ricky had said that he talked to the eXp CEO and that eXp would not be offering broker to broker comp moving forward. Leo has essentially said, yeah, that is the case for eXp. There's going to be some instances in different states where they've got to be flexible. eXp, and I said this on the live stream, has got to go in the direction of protecting themselves. There's a ton of liability that they're faced with that small independent brokerages might not be as concerned as they will. Where, Ricky, I had a little issue, and I want you to respond to the whole thing and take it any direction that you want, was more so maybe the second post that you made that made it sound like this was the only option available for agents, or really for brokers, to make the decision of what their business model was going to be. You said agents that think they're going to do any type of compensation really from brokerage to brokerage are living in a dream world. That would be what the DOJ wants. And so I see where you're going with that. Right now, the NAR settlement, obviously in Section 32, would allow for it. There are states that are building in forms that allow for it.
Yep.
And so did I misquote you, number one? Did do you think that it's going to go this direction, and that's why you stated that, DOJ? I want your words, your reaction, everything that happened last week.
It's more of an opinion. I mean, the DOJ, they've made it clear what they want. When I saw what happened in California, and people say California is a different animal. Yeah, especially with what I just heard that they did. But however, I just believe that that's kind of where we're going to end up. So I may be predicting a little, but that's the basis of this entire suit. And, we lost the suit, right? We didn't appeal, right? We settled. And now we're going to have to face whatever new rules come out of this. What's really conflicting is the different areas, the different rules, the different contracts. How are you going to tell me that I can't put a buyer, a brokerage commission on MLS, but I can put it on my website? You're telling me I can do it. I can't. Like, it's so confusing. And I think there's a lot of unclarity. There's just a lot of complete, and so everybody wants to act like they know what's going to happen. Okay. I'll say something, agents will comment and say, "Oh, you're crazy. This is how it's going to happen." Nobody knows what's this. This is uncharted waters. We don't know what's going to happen, how the market's going to react. We know one thing, that closings are going to continue to happen every single day, and people are going to use real estate agents. Now, what that looks like completely down to the finer details, we don't really know. Um, and it's going to take a while for all this to flush out and figure out exactly what that new norm is. Um, but when you really take step back and take a hard look at it, if we're in a position where basically you correct me if I'm wrong, what I feel like the price fixing issue really was the listing agent and the seller deciding what the buyer agent was going to make.
Hmm. Yeah,
It wasn't really
the buyer had no say in that.
it wasn't really everything 6%, even though they did bring that up in court. Um, I feel like the price fixing issue was really, or what the basis of it was that we were deciding what the buyer was gonna pay their agent basically through the seller, through the listing agent's commission is like crazy. The whole thing is nuts when you sit back and really take a look at how the model is still currently, where we're going to. It's really confusing both ways. That's really what brought all this up, because confusion. Buyers would buy something, not know how much or even how their agent got paid, don't know why in the world they're going to all these links to help them buy this property. It was confusing. And that's what kind of brought this, to where we are. A couple of lawyers said, let's go make $1 billion. And, now we're in this place where it's going to be a moving target. Like, these rules are not going to stay the same, right? The DOJ has been very loud about, we're going to continue to investigate, right? We're not going to allow workarounds. We're going to continue to investigate. And guess what? We'll come back and sue you again. Um, so you
And
have
that's
to
where
take a step back. If we continue to go down the path of, we're going to determine on the listing side when we list the property what that buyer agent is going to make, then we have to, only in our right mind could we have to agree with the fact that we are doing the same thing that we just lost in court for. So yeah, and you know what? It is the DOJ's fault and NAR's fault for putting these FAQs in place that literally conflict each other.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Right, NAR's got this settlement that's in place that says, oh, you can do broker to broker compensation. The only
Mhm.
place it can't be done is on the MLS. I think,
Okay.
I was taking some notes as you were going through your thoughts, and one common thread there certainly stood out to me, that there's a lot of confusion
And today's the
Mhm.
30th.
today.
Today's
We're
July 30th.
This will go up on July 30th. We're recording this on July
I
30th. We're
mean,
19 days away, obviously. And you can go through, some states have moved faster, other states are moving slower. Some brokerages, and this is where I think EXP Realty's been a leader on this, their buyer toolkit online. For, it was funny, Ricky, when Leo called me, I said, Leo, you're calling me after this pod, but for 3 weeks I did nothing but praise EXP Realty. I said, nobody sent you those links.
yeah.
When I'm praising the EXP buyer toolkit. So they've been a leader. There is a lot of confusion. And NAR puts out their FAQ sheet and says, hey, you can do this, but we haven't heard anything from NAR, really in quite some time. Not anything meaningful that you can really pull from and get some clarity. So yeah, I totally agree. This is confusing. And what I'll say about, your post, the deleted one, and then the second post, was both of those posts cumulative generated thousands of comments, which to me is a good thing in this industry, because it's generating a discussion. It's generating this discussion. It's pulling Leo
Yeah.
into the discussion to say, hey, I'm going to lead from the front as a CEO of a publicly traded company. I'm going to get into the discussion with the agents, ground floor stuff. I really appreciate that, because open discussion is what we need in this industry. And what you
Yeah.
said at the beginning, hey, I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not, and I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying this is very contradictory what NAR is saying. I'm of the belief that if you choose it as a business model, which some brokers aren't going to choose it as a business model, that I'm of the belief that you can do it. And I knew this 3-4 months ago. We all knew there'd be some brokers that say, I'm going to choose the business model of never offering a buyer comp, and that's going to be my business model. And if we have options for more business models, the better. If sellers have more options, freedom of choice to really articulate to the market what they're offering with their property is going to be. I think the better. I think less options and more regulation is actually worse for consumers. Do you? I know where you stand, where you think it's going, and where the DOJ is going to ultimately drive us to. But in a perfect world, would you give more options to consumers? Would you have more business models, or would you have one business model?
Well, I would have more. However, the way that it is, if we're going to offer a buyer agent commission, I like the seller concession model where you're separating it. And the buyer now, talking about options, has the option to use that money for whatever they want: buyer agent commissions, title work, discount points, whatever they want to spend it on. I like that because it doesn't pigeonhole them into, you can only use this money for buyer agent commissions. You can use it for whatever you want. So it gives the buyer options of how they want to use that money. If a seller does want to offer commissions, it's kind of like we've kind of been forced into this box. And now, honestly, I believe the DOJ is doing a horrible job because they're allowing all of these different conflicting rules. You can't offer it on MLS, but you can offer it on your website that nobody's going to look at. And now agents are like, oh, well, I can do buyer agent commissions. Nothing's going to change. I'm not worried about this until you end up in court. Um, yeah, yeah, it's it's going to be a strange go, but it's going to be the greatest social experiment we've ever seen. Is what it's going to be. Um,
The
you're
next
going to have
reality
buyers who
series.
feel like, I don't need agents to open doors. And then come to find out, that's exactly, if they go try to like just set up 10 appointments to see houses, they'll lose their freaking mind just to open the doors. Like,
Right.
I don't need a door opener. Well, yeah, you don't. You actually need me for all the other stuff that I do, right? All this other stuff. But by the way, you don't even want to set up the appointments to go see the homes. That's a lot of work in itself. So it's going to be interesting to see these buyers flounder around and say, I don't need an agent, and go off and try to do it on their own for a little while here and there. And then come running back to us and be like, how much do you charge? I will pay you whatever you want. Just do the next deal for me. Um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting go. I kind of feel bad, honestly, because I feel like the buyer, just because of the misconception in the industry, okay, not because buyer agents don't provide even at at least equal value as the listing agent. Buyer agents have been getting they've been getting it for a while with listing agents taking more than them. Like, oh, I deserve more, right? Let's give you 40%, 30%, whatever, and I'll keep the rest. Now they're going to be in a situation where, especially in these markets and brokerages who won't allow the shared commission, they're going to offer a seller concession. Well, from the listing agent's point of view, why would you even offer it? Because you don't know what the buyer signed the contract with their agent to pay them. If you're going to offer 3 and they sign for 1.5, well, you didn't do your seller any justice there in the negotiations. So now the DOJ and NAR and the lawyers and the plaintiffs are literally putting listing agents in the position where they have a fiduciary to the seller to literally beat down the buyer agent commission in a situation where the listing agent doesn't want to do that. We want our buyer's agents to be paid as much as possible. And then you've got the sellers who also, it's going to be in their face now. At the time of offer, they're going to see the number that they're paying, not their agent, somebody else's agent. And they're going to be like, why am I paying somebody else's? I'll pay them this much. I'm not going to pay them that much, right? Um
On top of negotiating a purchase price for your home.
well, and here's the thing. I was gonna say, the sellers have such the upper hand there, because if you're a buyer agent and you sign for, say, 2%, and you make an offer, they're not offering it up front. You have to put it in the offer, and you say, I want to get 2%, right? You put it in the offer, and the seller comes back and say, let's say it's a $600,000 home, that's 12,000 bucks. And the seller comes back and says, I'll pay you 3,000. And it's down to that being the last negotiable item on the contract, right? Whereas if, as the buyer agent, if you don't say, yeah, I'll take $3,000, your buyer just won't get the home. Now you're basically forced into this situation where you basically don't have a choice. You have a fiduciary to your buyer now. And, and then it depends on the contract now, because the contract, right? Does it read that the buyer is going to make up the difference? And now is the buyer bound to that contract? Like, it's such a, for the DOJ and all the higher ups here to literally force this situation from the beginning of the listing to the point of the negotiation of the contract. Horrible idea. Ridiculously horrible idea. It just puts you in such a predicament. Everyone in a predicament. It's just an item I don't believe should be in the purchase agreement. They're literally forcing it to be there. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
And
Warren Buffett said at his annual address for Berkshire Hathaway, for the entire Berkshire Hathaway, not just home services, but for the entire company earlier this year, he's looked at all the systems. The current system, pre-settlement, was working for a long time and it was working for a reason. And so, Warren Buffett would be on your side of things. I think our side of things here, that we're really messing with something that works. DOJ's got a lot of influence and has a lot of people concerned about punitive, results coming from getting anywhere close to, breaking the rules. Last time the DOJ got really aggressive with real estate, there was a settlement in place with NAR in 2019. And then, of course, you had a new administration,
Yep.
and they backed out shortly after the new administration took the White House of that prior settlement. So right now, all of a sudden, we're coming to an election year anyways, potentially an end of this administration, potentially a new administration, or either way, it's going to be a new administration because the incumbents dropped out of the race. So you could argue maybe it'd be the same administration if one
Different
side gets in.
Different podcast.
Point being, if DOJ came to the table now and said to NAR, hey, we want to put together a new settlement, I think you'd have to be crazy to get into a settlement right now when literally 4 years ago, an election happened and they backed out. They've already set precedent of backing out. So from that perspective, wouldn't you want to push as much of this into 2025 as you possibly can, Ricky? Or would you say, let's get clear rules now and just, if we got to go
I don't think
further
you
than the
can
rules,
make it. I
go
don't
with it?
think you can make it clear now. That's the problem. The market, it's going to take the market a while to adjust to what's happening. This is going to be a moving target. You can't make clear rules right now. Obviously, there's so many conflicting rules out there. It's not even funny. It's going to
I
take the
agree.
market, it's going to take the market's going to have to adjust to this. Once we see how the market adjusts to this, which could take 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, like this is not going to happen quickly. This is going to take a while for this to really wash through and understand how this is going to really work for consumers, in a way where we actually understand, okay, well, this is how we need to make the rules. I don't think you can just say, okay, here's the new rules, because you're basing it on nothing. We're in uncharted waters. It's just got to be, we've got to test. Anything more than a test is just a guess at best, and anybody's guess is as good as mine. We got to get out there and, see how the market reacts before we can really sit down and say, well, this is what the rules should be. And I mean, new administration or not, this is going to continue. Some people are like, well, things could start to reverse. Nope, this is already in place. The ball's rolling. They've already won the lawsuit. We've settled out.
That's right.
The lawyers aren't going to change their mind because a new administration's in. They're going to pursue this with everything they got. They got a Billy. They got a Billy sitting on it. So, now listen, at the end of the day, for agents, honestly, I mean, I'm a 1% of 1%er, so maybe it sounds weird, but this is a non-issue. Worst case scenario, buyer agent commissions average 1%, right? Worst case scenario, listing agent commission averages 2 to 3%. Okay. Let's just say that's worst case. I believe. I think that's as bad as it could get. Dude, in that environment, I am absolutely
Uh,
crushing it.
if there's a
So,
lot of business models that don't offer buyer comp, I think what sellers pay for the listing side goes up. I could see an average of 4+% on a lot of those
mhm,
models, three
yeah,
and a half, 4%. And we don't know. This is me guessing.
absolutely. I'm just saying worst, right?
Yep. I,
I
s- I
bel
hear where you're going with it.
I think the average listing agent, I think the listing agent, their average commission per deal increases,
I agree.
right? Now I do think that there's something to be said about maybe a lack of um sides, maybe, if buyers go to if we do have buyers that go directly to listing, which, listen, that is yet to be seen. A lot of people
Right.
talk about buyers going direct to listing agents, maybe, because right now agents work for free. You take on a buyer and you just go show them. You don't know if you're going to get paid right now. So why wouldn't you take a
You incur all
why
the
wouldn't that
risk
same
for
agent
sure.
why wouldn't that same agent take a buyer who is telling them to their face, I can't pay you? Well, heck, that's okay. I'll try to get it from the seller. If I don't worry about it. I'll get your listing in 3 years.
Yeah,
So I think you're still gonna have, um, agents go out there risking if they're gonna get paid or not, right? With the notion that they can make it up on the seller side. But I do feel bad for people that have buyer-based business models where more than, you know, 40, 50, 60% of their business or more is buyer based. I'm worried about them business models, but again, opinion.
100%. Totally. And that's where I think everybody's going to learn better together when we get all these thoughts and discussions out there. Would you agree? And I know you're up against it. You got a hard stop, so we're going to let you go, and then me and Nicole finish up the pod. But I got two more things for you. First thing, would you agree that most agents, when they're working on the buy side, for the last couple decades and probably even more, have really been working in a non-exclusive relationship, even in these buyer agency states? Because a lot of times these agents get the buyer agency form signed when they're doing the purchase. So to your
Yeah.
point, they've been working and showing homes and doing
Hmm.
due diligence on properties in a
Yeah.
non-exclusive relationship or
Hmm.
non-exclusive way from the start. Do
Hmm.
you agree with that?
Yeah, and not explaining anything either. That's why I say the buyer walks away at closing wondering, how the heck did my agent get paid? Why did they do all that work? And who the heck paid them? Right? That was a big that was that is part that was a huge part of the problem, right? So we have to point the finger at ourselves
That's right.
that we but hey, it got to that point where, human nature, we're going to do as little little as possible, and still get the job done. um but yeah, they have been working on a very non-exclusive basis, even the buyer agency states.
All right, Ricky, last thing, what would you we're 19 days away. I know you did a big webinar recently that was very popular on this topic. Anything you'd leave everybody with? I know you mentioned, hey, the top agents are going to be really fine, they're going to be protected, but anything you want to leave everybody with?
You can't control, right? You can't control what's going to happen, what rules are going to happen, what commissions go down to. That's going to be dictated by the market and outside factors of your business. You have zero control there. What you need to do is you need to focus on your career. And that means expanding your influence, right? Just more people need to know who you are, right? If you're not focused on that, the only reason you should pay attention to this is so that you have some kind of credibility. You kind of maybe know what business model you want to kind of go with, especially in the beginning, and be ready to be agile and be flexible on that as time goes on and you see different things, because you're going to be up against other agents with business models, right? If you're like, oh, I'm going to offer buyer agent commission, and then you're up against two agents who are not and telling the sellers why they should not, well, you're probably going to lose that listing. So you gotta be flexible. But at the end of the day, believe, work hard, adapt, and be patient. You need to really focus on how big your business could be over the next 5 years. Just this is a non-issue. The reason we pay attention to market trends is not because we fear that the market could take our business out, because it could never take your business out unless you believe it can take your business out. Then it will take your business out because you'll slow down when the market slow down, etc. But at the end of the day, we study market trends, we study things like this so that we just are in the know and we have credibility when we speak to people. We're not watching this because we're worried that we're not going to have a job at the end of the day, right? You should have full confidence that this is an industry, dude, man, like I see nothing in sight anywhere on the horizon of anything taking agents out like it did travel agents or bookstores or
In fact, there'll be more travel agents over the next couple of years is the projection. Their
Mhm.
travel agents are going up. People don't there's no travel agents. Wait a minute. There's no
we
brick and
we
mortar travel agents, which might lend to what, Leo's doing at EXP, what Sharon's doing with Real. They're getting rid of brick and mortar. There's not really any brick and mortar travel agents, but there are tens and tens of thousands of travel agents in this country right now
my cousin's
representing
one.
people on their complicated travel situations.
My cousin's one, and we just used one to book a trip to Disney last year, and it was an incredible experience. Yeah, so I mean that's a good point, right? But like people thought LegalZoom was going to take lawyers out. People thought Zillow was going to take agents out. Now we got AI, right? All these things have just made our job easier to where we could actually sell more property in less time. There's no way I could do 100 deals a year as a single agent without Zillow finding the properties for me to show my clients, without DocuSign, without MLS. Like there's no way I could have done the things that I've done without the advancements in the same technology people said would take us out. So just realize you're in one of these industries, right? There's just so needed, regardless of what happens, with technology, legislation, rule. I mean, unless they just make it illegal to be an agent, unless they just make it illegal to be an agent, you're going to be just fine, right? Focus on building your brand.
We'll start the prohibition era of real
Ruh-roh.
estate agents. All right, Ricky, I know you're up against it. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Nicole and I are going to get into these Las Vegas forms. I think Haley's forwarding them to you so you can take a look at them as well. We're going to break those down. And speaking of Vegas, Ricky, I'll see you in Vegas at BAM Mania. Looking
Dude,
forward
I will
to
be there with bells and whistles on, doing cartwheels across the stage.
looking forward to
You
having you
better
there.
now.
BAMmania.com. You want to hear more from Ricky, get a chance to meet him. With August 17th approaching, it is more important than ever for agents to keep their clients, not just for the transaction, but for life. So I believe so much in what Reminder Media is doing. They're creating content that allows you to stay in front of your sphere of influence, the clients that you've transacted with in the past, so that they think of you first when they have a referral, when they have another transaction. A lot of people send a just sold or a just closed realtor talk mail. Reminder Media supports agents like Nicole, my co-host on The Real Word, in building out an authentic magazine where you can advertise your own properties. Here's an example of our award-winning luxury new development that we have in Connecticut. Put it right on the back and put in a whole bunch of relevant information. You can build out the content inside of your magazine and send it to maybe people you're following up with to get a listing, or people who are in your database right now who know you but might just forget about you because you're mixing in with all the postcards from the other agents. Reminder Media keeps you top of mind with the people that you want as clients for life. That's why we believe in so much of how they're helping agents just like you stand out. Go to remindermedia.com/BAM sample. Remindermedia.com/BAM sample today to get your sample and start reminding your clients exactly who you are today. All right, so there you go. Ricky jumping on the pod, Nicole. Were you surprised that he did that? And what were your reactions to everything he said after last week's pod, which went crazy, and obviously the Leo live stream, which he demanded immediately? I don't even think I've talked to you about that phone call. He's like, I was like, hey, you could come on to Leo. I said, you could come on the Real Word next week, which
Right.
obviously now we've had Ricky,
Yeah.
so we've kind of gotten everybody's thoughts. But I said, you could come on
I mean,
next week. And he goes, no, I want to do a live
no.
today. I
While
was
I'm
like,
on vacation, everyone can barely hear you.
I
It
know
was kind of
his
hard to,
audio
it was
rough.
terrible. It was awful. Yeah.
That was the unfortunate part about that. But I give him a lot of credit for wanting to get out ahead of it. Somebody who's a CEO of a publicly traded company. But your thoughts on what we just heard in the discussion with Ricky here? Just a shoulder shrug?
Yeah.
So am I just leaving it to the comments? You have nothing?
Yeah.
Nothing
no,
to add?
I mean, I think that it was what it was. I mean, I don't feel like there was anything different discussed. I think we're all sort of in the same boat, not really being clear on, what's happening, what's not. He clearly doesn't have a magic ball either.
Yeah.
We're all here navigating this the same way. Obviously, his company is taking one stance, which is why he made that post. But I think we're all still left here, still, like, again, 19 days out, still feeling like we still have no fucking idea what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I wanted to clear up, the problem that I had was the second post making it sound like the law.
That was the only way. Correct.
The only way, the law of the land.
Yeah.
And Ricky's, said, he came on here just now, you heard it, and said that's his
business
opinion.
model. Yeah.
Not necessarily his business, but it's his opinion of
Yeah.
what the business is going to, how it's going to move forward in the future. So it's an opinion / prediction. He said, he called it an opinion. And so I think we cleared that up. Right now, according to the NAR settlement, you still have the ability to do broker to broker compensation. It's in, number 32 in their FAQ. It's allowed in the settlement. Our forms in Connecticut just came out, and they have a separate form that is for that. It's
Right.
separate from the purchase contract. It gives broker to broker compensation, laying it all out. It's a 1-page form. We're going to get into Las Vegas forms. I just mentioned that.
Yep.
We'll get into that in just a second, what the purchase contract says, what the listing contract says. Before we do, I do want to mention California Regional MLS, CRMLS, on May 29th, Nicole, they, according to Eamon, they added a concessions in price data field so that listing agents and brokers could list how much a seller was willing to contribute monetarily towards a buyer's cost in the transaction, otherwise known as concessions.
Right.
The buyer's cost. Okay, am I going to concede any of those costs as a seller to make this deal happen? Okay, a second data field indicated the type of concession, whether the amount being offered was a dollar amount or percentage of the sale price, which would make it, okay, I'm going to bang Zoom. You got it? Bang Zoom?
Bang Zoom.
All right. CRMLS added the field in anticipation of this changes, and NAR obviously saying you can do concessions here. Okay. Now they are removing this field. Okay. CRMLS removes seller concession field due to CAR form change. Now they are keeping the former field, which allows listing brokers and agents to indicate with a yes or no whether a seller will consider concessions. So MLS, California Regional MLS, is only going to say a yes or no box. Will the seller think about concessions? Yes or no? It means not. That means nothing.
Well, I mean, it at least gives you an indication of. Does it mean that it's the end all be all? Because then it's also like, then that's even just saying it's non-negotiable then almost too,
but
right?
If a seller
by saying
says,
no,
I won't consider concessions.
Yeah, I'm
but
still
then
asking for a concession.
You're still putting it in the offer.
Obviously.
So it doesn't matter if you say yes or no to that.
True.
You're still, the buyer may
still going to be asking you to do that. Of course they are. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Write that
Confidentially. Write that in to the agreement.
Right.
Potentially.
Maybe.
Okay. So the yes or no, to me, that field means nothing. It's meaningless. Just save the data, get that field out of there. California, if you're going to remove the ability to put some context behind it, because what you can't do, like the town hall that happened in Connecticut, for example.
Well, think about how many agents then would actually then deter their buyer. Think about there's so many, I shouldn't say so many, there are allegedly some lazy agents that just like wouldn't even go the extra step to then like they would probably even deter their buyer from even going to that house possibly if it says no too, right? Think about how many times it gets really difficult and a buyer's agent just
that you really just can't do. But to your point,
No,
are you going to have
but
some of those
but if the buyer can't afford to
situations?
pay you, the buyer is going to then,
So you're saying this could encourage more steering than what's even taken place in the past. That's one way
potentially,
to look at it.
yeah,
That's
for
how some people are
sure.
looking at
If they're
that.
saying no, they're not willing
Yeah.
to like.
What you can't do, even if the seller wants you to do it, is you can't go to agent comments and say seller is willing to do concessions of X%, because they want to incentivize buyer agents. You can't do that. It has to live outside of the MLS.
It's so interesting though, because
MLSs are going to be monitoring this, by the way.
I was telling you, like,
removing.
because if I know that there is like a roof issue, I have put in there that the seller is willing to give a 25. I don't call it a credit. I mean, I guess it's the same thing. A $25,000
Sellers willing to do a
credit
credit
towards
for the roof, yeah.
Yeah,
And you've put that in the agent remarks, so
of course.
so that you know.
Yeah, well, then it's like at least we know that the roof is shitty. Like here we are, we're willing to give you a concession for it already up in the front end. Let's not even fucking talk
They've been thinking about
it.
changing the roof, but they were going to go with
but
some
here you go.
crazy
Here's
looking
some
tiles.
money.
Maybe you
Yeah,
want
like we
other
don't even, but we
tiles.
know it's shitty, so don't like hassle us about it. We're willing to acknowledge it. Here's our acknowledgement. Here's the money. Take it. And then, so like you can't, would you not even like maybe everyone's giving a concession on a roof now.
There are a lot of sellers that decide to get out ahead. Hey, can we know the boiler's 30 years old. We know
their
somebody's going to want to change
shitty.
it.
Let me give you a $5,000 carpet credit. So
Maybe
you can pick out what you want.
Maybe they want to go to tile or hardwood or exchange the carpet.
Or, hey, I'm going to give you a $15,000 countertop credit. Pick out what you want.
Here's a concession. Maybe you want to pay a buyer agent to help you with the journey. Maybe you want to
put new countertops in.
Maybe you want to bring down your mortgage costs. Maybe you want to X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
I want to bring a deal together where I can net as a seller the most amount of money possible. And if a concession, no matter where that concession goes, helps me do that, I'm interested in that as a seller. That's what a lot of sellers ultimately end up. That's a place that they've ended up traditionally.
Well, I think where it's really helpful too, because I'm working with a family right now, a parent passed away and they really don't know the ages of things either. So it's like
they didn't live in the house.
No. Yeah. So like we think this and like, and someone in the family is an insurance agent too. So he also knows like the difficulty of getting insurance now too. So like for them, it's like, well, let's consider some sort of, credit up front, letting them know that we're like, this is what we're willing to do, not knowing.
That's right. Yeah.
But it also allows them a really great sense at the end of the day, like where they're going to be netting to. They're in like this reverse mortgage situation. So it's like, it's kind of like a nice way for everyone to kind of go in and like know kind of like where they're going to be potentially sort of ending up, But
all right. I've got
anyway.
Las Vegas Forms, Keller Williams agent. I won't say who she is because I should have asked her permission.
Maybe it's a he.
So could be a he, could be anybody. Could be anybody out there.
Are they?
Okay. I didn't get permission to say this. So I don't want to do that.
Moving on.
Unfortunately, I'd love to give credit there. But these forms, unlike California, we have a bunch of red ink. They have the word final running through them. Okay. So all the forms, the listing agreement, as well as the purchase and sale say final. So Las Vegas agents, love your feedback in the comments. Also would love to know if you're coming to BAM Mania at Circle Las Vegas, October 17th and 18th. BAMmania.com. If you haven't gotten your ticket, BAMX members, you get 25% off of the tickets, whether they're VIP or general admission. You get 25% off of today's price. You can use code REALWORD to get into BAMX. All right, so on the listing agreement.
Yes.
Number 5, you have compensation to broker. Let's put this up on the screen, Haley, in the post edit so people can see it. Compensation commissions are not set by law or by any realtor. That is the first line you're commonly seeing everywhere.
Of course.
On every contract. So that is going to be seen probably in every state. They are not set by law or any realtor association. They are fully negotiable. Okay. If during the listing term seller sells the property and sale closes, or the sale fails due to seller's breach of the terms in this purchase and sale, seller shall pay the following. Seller agrees to pay a commission of blank % box. You would check that box. And you could check the other box or $ blank flat fee.
Oh, look at that. I love that. A percentage and a dollar amount.
And or.
I know, but it could be an and.
You check one box. Let's
go.
You could say % and flat.
Right.
Hey, it's
Let's
fully
go.
negotiable.
Yeah.
You could work off percent, and I'm taking. Well, by the way, I used to do that.
Yeah, you little like a listing type of fee, like a
I used
marketing
to do a
fee.
fee. Yeah, because properties weren't selling. Like,
Right.
listen, guys, and for everybody that thinks,
Or we're gonna do this back in the old days.
no, I'm just saying, like, no, this
We
is
had
not for
listings that
agents.
didn't
This
sell.
is for the mainstream media that thinks consumers are getting ripped. There were so many consumers that said to me,
Yeah.
I want to pay more to the buyer agent than I am right now because I want to incentivize because homes weren't selling. And I said, well, I already have 40 something listings. So I'm taking on all the risk here of promoting this to the agent community, promoting this to every single buyer.
The photos, the videos.
All the videos that I'm promising
We
doing.
used to put ads in the newspaper. Do you know how expensive ads are
Everything.
in the newspaper? It's stupid.
Everything that we were doing.
Yeah.
Nicole really showing her age and marketing competency on the newspaper comment there. But all the stuff that we're doing, I was saying, hey, I'm happy to do this and get this word out there on the property. I have 40 other sellers I'm working for right now. And, I'm getting the job done in a really hard market, which is why we're talking right now about if we're a fit to work together. But I'm going to need a marketing fee up front, which would be the flat fee. So it'd be the percent and the flat fee. We used to do that. And so maybe that's an option. Maybe, and to my point is, the really good agents might be negotiating themselves more than what's been common because the separation might become so clear as this discussion becomes the norm for every single client. All right, so you've got that box. The commission is exclusively for listing the broker services and not subject to share and splitting or otherwise distributing to any buyer's broker or agent. Okay, it's exclusively what is being filled out here in the listing contract. Exclusively, you can't sign it and decide to pay a buyer, broker, or agent out of it. It's exclusively for the listing broker.
Mm-hmm.
The seller acknowledges that any commission arrangement with a buyer's broker, if applicable, must be covered by a separate agreement / residential purchase agreement and is not covered under this listing agreement. So nowhere in this listing agreement, as you can see there on the screen, do you have the ability
to offer,
as the seller to set it. You'll have to do it on another form. You could do it on an addendum.
Right.
And then
wait for a purchase and sales agreement to come in to then decide if you're going to do it.
Or you wait and don't set what you're willing to offer. And then you get negotiated on all the purchase and sales. So you can do a separate addendum. That is fine per the NAR settlement. And Las Vegas is saying clearly in their listing agreement that you can do that on that separate addendum.
It's not a terrible way to attack it. Like, oh, we are willing to compensate, but we're just not offering out a certain amount. Put it in your offer.
You could do it that way.
Why not?
To me, I think a lot of sellers might say, I want to know my numbers now and I want to make an offer.
Well, but they could agree.
They might do that.
They could agree that they're
allegedly.
They know that all this is allegation. I mean, they could say, in the back of their minds, though, they could know that they're willing to give 2.5 and they're not willing, or maybe 3 bananas, whatever it may be, and just not go above that.
They could make an offer and say, I could.
But what if somebody comes in and doesn't ask for anything because their buyer is willing to pay?
Right. So there you go. So you're going to have some strategy there with what kind of market are we in? What kind of competition do I have? This is the strategy a seller is going to go through. How do I position this the right way? Not just in marketing, but in terms of negotiation.
Right.
Purchase and sale agreement. Number 2, which is top of the
second page.
Their purchase and sale is 11 pages. Their listing agreement, by the way, just for totality of that, was 10 pages.
Wow.
All right. Number 2, top of second page, buyer representation / buyer broker compensation. This is the purchase and sale.
This is really something.
And they've built it in.
It's interesting that that's the smallest section in here, like the inspection section. I mean, they're like, who's paying for the elevator inspection?
I don't really care about the elevator. I think it's very interesting that this is built in because it almost
is encouraging it, but on the other side, it's not.
Right. It's almost, you could argue, suggesting you should ask for it,
of course,
as opposed to saying this is an option.
So I wonder what their buyer broker looks like then too.
I don't have their buyer agreement. If I could get the Las Vegas buyer, you mean the buyer agreement?
Yeah,
I'd love to see the buyer
yeah,
agreement.
yeah.
Love to see the Las Vegas
Yeah.
buyer agreement. Buyer representative, buyer broker compensation. At the close of escrow or the exchange of the subject property, seller shall pay the buyer's representative / buyer broker, buyer's representative / buyer's broker, blank % of the gross price of the property or blank dollar amount upon execution this residential purchase agreement or subsequent offer, counter offer rather.
I love that it says gross too.
Gross sales price. So any counter offer, this would include that. This clause is no longer negotiable between. So once you agree, this is saying this is not renegotiable.
So I love that because remember what
between buyer and seller.
I've always told you that I was always so concerned about the point where, okay, we've agreed and then we get into an inspection situation and like say a septic failed and now the seller has to pay $25,000 for a septic. Are they then renegotiating at that time what they're going to be giving you? Because
any
they
modification,
have to,
any modification thereafter must be ratified in writing by the buyer's representative / buyer's broker.
Yeah.
So, if they can't come to deal on this thing, the buyer's got to say, okay, I'm willing to do.
Yeah. Get rid
X, Y,
of,
and
don't
Z.
pay her, put in my septic. Oh my Lord.
There's going to be negotiation
don't
after
pay
negotiation.
Her.
They're talking a lot of
put
negotiation.
In my septic. So many negotiate. Can you imagine people that aren't good at negotiating?
Their
heads are going to burn.
Read the Chris Voss book, I guess. Okay. All right, so there you go. There's the Vegas paperwork.
I do want to see the buyer representation though, because it's interesting. Because I remember
I'm going to ask for it.
What we liked about one of them. I'm clouding. I'm assuming the only one that we've really ever seen was. We liked EXPs because it said, that this is what you want me to do. Like you want me to ask the seller to
this
cover.
is going to be our strategy, or I'm going to pay. Or
so my hope is that that's what Vegas is doing if they're putting into their purchase and sale, that it's mentioned that. They're going to be attempting to get it from the seller.
We'll see. I guess we'll find out. Maybe we get that for you next week. Vegas agents, just like I had a lot of comments from California agents, I'm sure maybe we'll get some California comments with the CRMLS ruling here. Again, love the Las Vegas agent thoughts on these final, what they're saying is final.
Yeah.
They're not going to change purchase agreement as well as listing agreement. Love your thoughts. And I'd love Vegas agents to see you at BAM Mania. Get your ticket, bammania.com. BAMX members, you get 25% off. Use code REALWORD to get into BAMX if you haven't done so already.
Let's go.
Rick, thanks to Ricky again. Love your comment
great.
and thoughts on Ricky's appearance. We don't do many guests.
No, we don't. Although we've been doing a few more lately.
Once in a while.
This year we've had quite a few. We've had a banner year.
A banner year of guests. Ricky Carruth, first time on the Real Word. He'll be on the BAM Mania stage unless I tick him off somehow. He didn't seem too mad at me.
No, I thought he seemed lovely.
I screenshotted his post.
You didn't give me a chance to say word is up. I was sad about that.
Oh, say it now.
I just did.
You just did it. All right.
He seemed lovely.
I screenshotted his post, but once you put something out there publicly.
He didn't know my name though.
He did before the show. He got your name.
Yeah. It's kind of like, what's his name? Tom Ferry calls me Katie.
Every once in a while,
things happen.
He crosses you on that one.
I feel great.
I don't understand that one.
It's all right.
I'll be talking to TF later today, by the way. I talked to Ricky and TF same day. Kind of
weird. Big day for you. Yeah, and me. Weird day. And me.
And Nicole.
Big
just
day.
all the way around.
Big day. Winning.
But if you put something out, if you post something out there, watch out.
You're coming?
Well, I don't know. You've once you put it out there publicly, it's out there.
It is. It's a good lesson to our children too.
Yeah. There was so many comments on there, and I'm glad we had the discussion. I'm glad Ricky came on. I'm glad.
I think it's great.
I think we're getting one step closer to maybe working through this. There's I agree with Ricky. There's still a lot of confusion.
Well, I think we've said this before. I think where it's going to be the most important is for the agents to obviously communicate, because we're going to be the ones that are going to have to be working together in the negotiation process. So the more we talk to each other and the more we learn from each other, I think it'll be better for, buyer and seller. Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it.
See you guys next week. Thank you so much. Keep it real.
See you guys.
At BAMX, we listen to what real estate professionals want and need. That's why our platform is filled with sought-after courses, content, and tactical assets for your business. And that's why we launched BAMX in a box with templates and scripts done for you, delivered each Friday. The best part? It's not coming from panel pontificators who bought their followers and don't sell any real estate. It's coming from top agents, team leaders, and content creators in the industry. It's education that actually shows you how to do what you need in today's market. And now it includes editable templates and scripts so you can easily deliver that knowledge to your database. Every day, we continue to add more content into BAMX, into our private Facebook community, content that works, content that our members have exclusive access to daily. So do not wait any longer. Use code REALWORD and join the thousands of agents taking their business to the next level today. Code REALWORD for 10% off. I'll see you in BAMX.